Owning a pet is supposed to be simple. You feed them, you love them, you occasionally stop them from eating something that clearly used to be part of the couch. That's the dream. The reality, somewhere out there, a grown adult is trying to dry their wet cat with a hairdryer on maximum hurricane mode. Someone else just bought their hamster a $400 luxury mansion the size of a studio apartment, and another proud dog owner is Googling whether peanut butter, pizza crust, and half a sock counts as a balanced diet. Humans love animals. That's not the problem. The problem is that humans also make decisions, spectacularly bad ones. And once you start looking at the things people do in the name of loving their pet, you realize the line between adorable and catastrophically stupid is basically invisible. And trust me, the stories only get worse from here. 1. I once watched a guy proudly explain that he feeds his dog nothing but a natural ancestral diet, which sounds impressive until you realize the ancestral diet in question is mostly bacon grease, leftover pizza crust, and whatever the dog manages to steal off the coffee table. The logic, apparently, is that wolves lived in the wild and ate whatever they could find, so his suburban golden retriever should too. The only problem is that wolves also run 30 miles a day and occasionally wrestle elk for dinner. Meanwhile, this dog's biggest physical challenge is deciding whether to nap on the couch or the slightly softer couch. Predictably, the animal ballooned into a furry ottoman with legs and developed stomach issues that required a $900 vet visit. The owner's conclusion: my dog must just have a sensitive stomach. Yes, because the evolutionary diet of wolves definitely included Domino's and nacho cheese. 2. Then there's the classic moment when a new pet owner discovers that animals, shockingly, have instincts. I saw someone adopt a husky, one of the most energetic dog breeds on earth, and decide it would live happily inside a 500-square-foot apartment in downtown Chicago. Their entire exercise plan consisted of 2 5-minute walks a day and an inspirational Instagram caption about urban dog life. What followed was a predictable masterpiece of chaos. Within 3 weeks, the husky had eaten a couch cushion, dug a crater in the carpet, and learned how to open the refrigerator like a tiny wolf burglar. The owner posted a confused video asking, "Why is my dog so destructive?" Because you essentially bought a canine Olympic athlete and gave it the lifestyle of a bored office intern. Huskies are sled dogs. They are genetically programmed to run across frozen tundra, not to sit in a studio apartment watching Netflix with you. 3. Cat owners, meanwhile, have mastered the art of creating problems and then blaming the cat for them. A friend of mine spent $1,200 on a designer glass coffee table because it really opened up the room. Then she adopted a cat. If you know literally anything about cats, you know they treat fragile objects the way toddlers treat bubble wrap. Within 48 hours, the cat had jumped on the table, slid across it like a furry hockey puck, and launched a decorative vase onto the floor. The owner stared at the shattered glass and said the sentence every cat owner eventually says, "He did that on purpose." Yes. Obviously, the animal is running a long-term psychological campaign against your interior design. Not because you placed a wobbling glass sculpture on the one surface in the house specifically designed for jumping predators. Cats don't respect furniture. Cats respect gravity. And gravity always wins. 4. There's also a special category of pet owners who believe animals should follow human fashion trends. These are the people buying $80 sweaters for dogs that already come pre-installed with fur. I once saw a woman put tiny boots on her bulldog because the pavement was a little chilly. The dog stood there frozen like a confused statue, lifting each paw one at a time like it had just stepped on invisible Lego bricks. The owner thought it was adorable. The dog looked like it had entered witness protection. Within 5 minutes, it had collapsed dramatically and refused to move, forcing her to carry a 60-pound bulldog down the sidewalk like a sack of potatoes. Dogs have survived ice ages, blizzards, and frozen wilderness for thousands of years, but apparently modern American sidewalks are simply too harsh unless your pet is wearing something that looks suspiciously like baby Ugg boots. 5. My personal favorite category is the people who treat their pets like emotional support roommates, and then act surprised when the animal behaves like an animal instead of a therapist. A guy I knew adopted a parrot because he read that parrots are intelligent and great companions. What he didn't read was the part where parrots live for 50 years and scream like malfunctioning car alarms at 6 a.m. every morning. Within a month, his apartment sounded like a tropical rainforest inside a megaphone. The bird learned to mimic his phone ringtone, which meant he spent entire afternoons answering imaginary calls from his coffee table. Eventually, the parrot also learned one phrase, "Hey! Hey! Hey!" which it screamed nonstop whenever the room went quiet. The owner said the bird was a little dramatic. No? You brought home a feathered toddler with bolt cutters for a beak and the personality of a nightclub DJ. 6. Fish owners deserve their own chapter in the encyclopedia of questionable decisions. Because somewhere along the way, people got the idea that fish are basically decorative furniture. I watched someone buy a tiny glass bowl, drop a goldfish into it, and proudly place it on a bookshelf like a living lava lamp. That fish had about as much swimming space as a hamster in a coffee mug. When the fish inevitably looked miserable, the owner said, "Maybe he's just shy." Yes, the fish is shy. That's why he's pressing his face against the glass like a prisoner trying to remember the ocean. Goldfish in the wild can grow over a foot long and live for decades. But in the average living room, they're expected to survive inside a bowl roughly the size of a cereal dish. It's less an aquarium and more a very polite form of aquatic house arrest. 7. Let's talk about people who buy exotic pets because they want to feel interesting. Someone I met once bought a raccoon, not a stuffed toy raccoon, a real raccoon. The kind that spends its nights opening garbage cans like a furry safecracker. He said it would be a unique pet. And it was unique, in the sense that it systematically dismantled his house like a tiny burglar with hands. Raccoons have the manual dexterity of a toddler who just discovered tools. Within weeks, the animal had opened cabinets, emptied the pantry, and figured out how to unscrew the lid of a jar. The owner described it as a little mischievous. Meanwhile, the raccoon was essentially running a one-animal crime syndicate from the kitchen. Nature designed raccoons to steal food in the dark while avoiding predators. Giving one full access to your refrigerator is like hiring a professional hacker to manage your passwords. 8. Then there's the genius who decides their pet needs a social media career. These people spend hours staging photo shoots for animals that would rather be eating drywall. I saw someone trying to film a cute dog TikTok dance. The dog sat there looking deeply disappointed in humanity, while the owner waved treats and shouted motivational phrases like a deranged sports coach. After 30 attempts, the dog finally moved, not to dance, but to walk away and sit in the corner like it was reconsidering its life choices. The video eventually got posted anyway, with cheerful music and the caption, "He loves doing this." Sure he does. The same way people love waiting in airport security lines. Animals don't dream of becoming influencers. The dog's personal goals probably include sleeping, sniffing a bush, and not wearing sunglasses for your Instagram brand deal. 9. Hamsters are another fascinating case study in human optimism. Every kid wants one because the pet store promises they're easy to care for. What they actually mean is easy to accidentally terrorize. I once watched someone buy a hamster and immediately builded a playground made of cardboard tubes, plastic wheels, and suspiciously unstable ramps. Within minutes, the hamster was sprinting through the maze like it had just discovered caffeine. Then it launched itself off a ramp and disappeared under the couch like a tiny stuntman. The owner panicked and spent the next 2 hours crawling around the living room, whispering, "Here, little buddy." The hamster eventually emerged from a shoe looking extremely pleased with itself. People think hamsters are calm, adorable pets. In reality, they are tiny, furry athletes powered by pure chaos and an inexplicable desire to escape every structure humans build for them. 10. One of the most baffling pet owner habits is the belief that animals understand human discipline lectures. I saw a guy crouch down and give his dog a full speech after it chewed a shoe. Not a quick "no," a full TED Talk. He pointed at the shoe, gestured dramatically, and explained the concept of responsibility like the dog was about to take a midterm exam. The dog stared at him with the same expression a goldfish has when it's contemplating a breadcrumb. Dogs don't understand moral philosophy. They understand two things: immediate rewards and immediate consequences. Trying to reason with a dog about footwear destruction is like trying to explain tax law to a microwave. The dog's internal monologue is probably just, The loud human is making mouth sounds again. I wonder if this means snacks. 11. Another classic mistake is the moment someone buys a puppy without understanding what puppies actually are. Puppies are not calm, fluffy decorations. They are essentially tiny caffeine addicts with teeth. A neighbor of mine bought a Labrador puppy because she saw a photo of a grown Labrador peacefully sitting beside a lake. What she got instead was a hyperactive land shark that believed furniture was a chewable puzzle. The dog chewed table legs, shoes, phone chargers, and once attempted to eat a remote control like it was a crunchy snack. She kept asking, "When will he calm down?" Probably sometime around the next presidential election. Labradors are famously energetic dogs that mature slowly. Buying one and expecting instant tranquility is like buying a drum set and hoping it functions as silent background decor. 12. Then there are people who assume all pets will instantly get along. I watched someone introduce a new kitten to their elderly dog with the enthusiasm of a reality TV host. "They're going to be best friends!" The dog looked horrified. The kitten looked like it had just been promoted to regional manager of chaos. Within seconds, the kitten was climbing the dog like a tree, while the dog tried to exit the room with the quiet dignity of someone avoiding an awkward conversation. The owner kept narrating, "Look, they're bonding." No, that's not bonding. That's a hostage situation with fur. Animals can absolutely become friends over time, but dropping them together like contestants on a survival show is rarely the path to harmony. 13. Some pet owners decide their animals should follow the same diet trends as humans. I once heard someone proudly announce their dog was on a vegan diet. Now, dogs can technically survive on carefully planned vegetarian diets, but the way most people attempt this is by feeding the dog random vegetables and hoping for the best. This particular dog stared at a bowl of kale the way a teenager stares at homework. Eventually, it ate the kale, and then immediately tried to steal a hamburger off the kitchen counter with the strategic precision of a military operation. Dogs are omnivores. They evolved alongside humans, eating scraps and meat and whatever else fell off the table. Turning them into unwilling participants in your nutritional philosophy experiment is basically forcing your roommate to join a diet they never signed up for. 14. Pet stores also love selling toys designed to mentally stimulate animals. This is great in theory, but owners sometimes misunderstand the assignment. I saw someone buy a complicated puzzle toy for their dog, one of those devices with sliding compartments that hide treats. The idea is that the dog uses problem-solving skills to open it. Instead, the dog picked up the entire toy, dropped it from the couch like a bomb, and broke it open instantly. Puzzle solved. Humans like to imagine animals are solving elegant intellectual challenges. Animals are usually thinking, "What happens if I hit this object with maximum force?" It's the same engineering philosophy used by toddlers and demolition crews. 15. And finally, we have the legendary moment when someone leaves their pet alone with food and assumes moderation will occur. A friend once left an entire bag of dog treats on the counter and went out for an hour. When he returned, the bag was empty and the dog looked like a furry beach ball with legs. Dogs do not have portion control. If a dog finds unlimited food, its brain immediately switches into ancient survival mode. Eat everything before another wolf steals it. This dog spent the rest of the evening lying on the floor like a stuffed sausage, occasionally groaning in regret. The owner said, "I think he learned his lesson." No, the dog didn't learn a lesson. The dog learned that heaven briefly existed in the kitchen, and he successfully conquered it. 16. I once met someone who bought a tiny turtle because they believe turtles are the low-maintenance introverts of the pet world. In their mind, the turtle would just sit peacefully in a bowl like a wise little philosopher contemplating life. What actually happened was the turtle immediately began plotting prison escapes like a reptilian Houdini. Turtles, it turns out, do not enjoy living in the decorative soup bowls. They require water filtration systems, basking lamps, temperature regulation, and a surprisingly complex ecosystem that looks less like a pet setup and more like a NASA research station. This particular turtle spent weeks aggressively climbing the rocks in its tank and falling off them like a clumsy stuntman. The owner kept saying, "He's exploring." No, he's not exploring. He's trying to locate the nearest exit because you've essentially placed a prehistoric swamp creature inside a designer salad bowl and expected it to meditate. 17. I also love the people who buy a bird and then get deeply offended when the bird behaves like a bird. A coworker of mine bought a cockatiel because she imagined peaceful mornings with gentle chirping and sunlight streaming through the window like a Disney movie. What she actually got was a tiny feathery alarm system that begins screaming at sunrise with the intensity of a car siren. Birds communicate loudly. That's literally their entire evolutionary strategy. They scream to call their flock, to mark territory, and sometimes just because they woke up and felt like announcing it. Within a week, she was Googling things like, "Why is my bird yelling at me?" Because you brought home a creature that evolved to shout across forests and mountains, then placed it inside a one-bedroom apartment with excellent acoustics. The bird isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what nature designed it to do, broadcasting its opinions to the entire neighborhood. 18. Then there are the people who buy rabbits because they think rabbits are basically fluffy house decorations that occasionally wiggle their nose. I watched someone bring home a bunny and place it gently in the living room like it was a scented candle. What they didn't realize is that rabbits are essentially tiny construction workers with anxiety and a deep personal hatred for electrical cables. Within 2 days, the rabbit had chewed through a phone charger, half a lamp cord, and what appeared to be the corner of a paperback novel. The owner looked betrayed, like the rabbit had violated a social contract. But rabbits chew constantly because their teeth never stop growing. That's not bad behavior, that's biology. Buying a rabbit and expecting it not to chew is like buying a blender and asking it politely not to spin. 19. Another fascinating species of human is the person who assumes animals understand mirrors the same way we do. I once watched someone hold their dog in front of a mirror and say, "Look, that's you," like they were introducing the dog to its own autobiography. The dog stared at the reflection with the deep suspicion of someone encountering a rival. Within seconds, it started barking at its own mirror twin, like two tiny security guards arguing over territory. The owner kept insisting the dog was learning self-awareness. No. The dog thinks there is another dog trapped inside a magical wall portal, and it is not happy about it. Animals do not sit around contemplating identity crises like philosophers. The dog's thought process is much simpler. There is a dog in my house, and he looks suspiciously like me. 20. Let's talk about the moment when someone decides their pet needs a birthday party, not just a treat or a toy, a full birthday party. Balloons, decorations, cake, and a small crowd of confused humans singing loudly in the living room. I watched a golden retriever sit in the middle of one of these events looking like it had accidentally wandered into a corporate meeting. The owner proudly placed a tiny cake in front of the dog while everyone chanted, "Happy birthday." The dog did not care about the birthday. The dog cared about the cake, specifically how quickly it could eat the cake before anyone changed their mind. Animals don't celebrate the passage of time. They don't track their age or reflect on life milestones. The only reason that dog tolerated the entire ceremony was because cake appeared at the end, like a delicious participation trophy. 21. One of my favorite modern inventions is the luxury pet hotel. This is a place where people send their pets when they go on vacation, so the animals can enjoy their own vacation. These places have spa treatments, swimming pools, and menus that sound like they were written by a gourmet chef. I once saw a brochure advertising canine aromatherapy. Aromatherapy, for a dog. A creature whose main hobbies include sniffing garbage cans and rolling in suspiciously smelly grass. Dogs don't require lavender relaxation treatments. Dogs are already relaxed. A dog's definition of luxury is a patch of sunlight and a snack. But somewhere along the way, humans decided their pets should enjoy the same spa experience as a stressed corporate executive. 22. Then there's the legendary moment when someone tries to train a cat the way you train a dog. I watched a guy attempt to teach his cat to sit. He held a treat above the cat's head and repeated the command with intense focus like he was conducting a scientific experiment. The cat looked at him with the quiet judgment of a professor grading a very disappointing essay. Dogs evolved to cooperate with humans. Cats evolved to tolerate humans as a convenient food source. After several minutes, the cat finally sat down, not because of the command, but because it got bored watching this human perform motivational speeches with snacks. The guy celebrated like he had unlocked a secret level in animal psychology. Meanwhile, the cat was clearly thinking, "I sat down because I wanted to sit down." 23. Every pet owner eventually discovers the mysterious phenomenon known as the zoomies. This is the moment when an animal suddenly sprints around the house like it has been possessed by a tiny tornado. A friend once asked me why his dog randomly ran in circles around the couch at maximum speed every evening. He thought something was medically wrong. No, that's just a dog releasing energy. Dogs sometimes run because they feel happy, or excited, or because they remembered they have legs. Watching the zoomies for the first time is like witnessing a miniature NASCAR race inside your living room. The dog will slide across the floor, bounce off furniture, and sprint down the hallway like it's chasing invisible ghosts. There is no deeper meaning behind it. The dog simply decided that now was the perfect moment to become a furry rocket. 24. Hamster wheels are another masterpiece of human optimism. We give a hamster a spinning wheel and assume it will politely jog for exercise like a responsible gym member. What actually happens is the hamster transforms into a caffeinated marathon runner. I once watched a hamster run on its wheel for so long that the wheel began squeaking like a rusty amusement park ride. The hamster did not stop. It looked like it had joined a tiny rodent Olympics. Scientists believe hamsters run because they evolved to travel long distances while foraging for food. But inside a cage, the hamster just runs and runs and runs, going absolutely nowhere. It's basically the animal kingdom's version of a treadmill. The hamster is putting in a heroic workout while the destination remains exactly 1 foot away. 25. Let's not forget the people who assume their pet understands television. I once saw someone sit their dog down in front of a nature documentary about wolves and say, "Look, you're cousins." The dog stared at the screen for about 5 seconds before losing interest and walking away to sniff the carpet. Humans see dramatic wildlife documentaries filled with epic music and emotional storytelling. Dogs see a glowing rectangle that occasionally makes animal noises. The owner was genuinely disappointed that the dog didn't feel some kind of spiritual connection with the wolves on screen. But dogs don't gather around the television to explore their ancestry. The dog's idea of entertainment is dramatically simpler. A ball. 26. Pet toys are another fascinating experiment in human imagination. Companies design complicated toys with bright colors and clever mechanics meant to mentally stimulate animals. Then the animal immediately ignores the toy and chooses the cardboard box it came in. I once watched someone spend $40 on an interactive puzzle toy for their cat. The cat sniffed it politely, then climbed into the empty box and sat there like it had just discovered luxury real estate. This happens constantly. Expensive toy? Ignored. Random plastic bag? Best day ever. Animals don't care about price tags or product design. They care about curiosity. And nothing sparks curiosity quite like the mysterious box that suddenly appeared in the living room. 27. Then there's the magical moment when someone assumes their pet feels guilt. You know the situation. The dog chews something important, and the owner says, "Look at his face. He knows he did something wrong." The dog does look guilty. Head lowered, ears back, avoiding eye contact like a teenager caught sneaking in late. But scientists believe dogs aren't actually feeling guilt. They're responding to the owner's angry tone and body language. The dog isn't thinking, "I have committed a moral failure." The dog is thinking, "The tall food provider is upset, and I would like that situation to stop immediately." That expression isn't guilt, it's crisis management. 28. Another thing humans love doing is narrating their pet's thoughts like the animal is starring in a sitcom. Someone will watch their dog stare out the window and say something like, "He's thinking about chasing squirrels again." Maybe. Or maybe the dog is thinking absolutely nothing. Animals don't spend long afternoons reflecting on complex plans and emotional dilemmas. Sometimes a dog is simply observing movement outside because movement is interesting. Humans desperately want animals to have elaborate inner monologues like characters in a Pixar movie. But the dog's internal narrative probably consists of 3 words: squirrel, maybe snap. 29. Pet cameras are another invention that says a lot about humans. These are cameras people install in their homes to watch their pets while they're at work. The idea is that the pet is doing something fascinating all day, maybe solving puzzles, maybe having adventures. When people actually check the footage, they discover the shocking truth. The pet sleeps for hours, then wakes up briefly, then sleeps again. I once saw someone scroll through 8 hours of camera footage, hoping to see their cat doing something dramatic. The entire recording looked like a documentary about a very relaxed pillow. 30. Then we have the people who try to speak fluent animal. These are the owners who bark at their dog or meow back at their cat like they're participating in an interspecies conversation. I once watched someone meow at their cat repeatedly with great enthusiasm. The cat stared at them with visible confusion, like a tourist listening to someone butcher their native language. Humans assume animals appreciate this effort, but imagine a giant creature leaning over you, making strange, slightly inaccurate sounds that vaguely resemble your language. That's what the cat is experiencing. It's not bonding, it's wondering why the humans suddenly started glitching. 31. And finally, there's the moment when someone insists their pet is secretly a genius. Every pet owner believes their animal is one step away from solving a complex math problem. I once heard someone claim their dog could almost understand full sentences. The example they gave was, "When I say walk, he gets excited." That's not advanced linguistics. That's pattern recognition connected to the promise of outdoor adventure. Animals are incredibly smart in their own ways, but not because they understand your motivational speeches. The dog isn't analyzing grammar or contemplating language structure. The dog heard the one magical word that means outside, smells, freedom, and maybe snacks. And honestly, if someone said a word that meant all those things to me, I'd get excited too. And there you have it. A world where humans confidently buy animals, misunderstand them completely, and then act shocked when biology refuses to follow the script. If you think these were ridiculous, trust me. This rabbit hole of pet owner logic goes much deeper. So now it's your turn. Which one was the dumbest? Or better yet, what's the most absurd pet owner moment you've ever seen? Drop it in the comments and let's see which story wins the gold medal in bad decisions. And if you enjoy watching humanity repeatedly outsmart itself in the worst possible ways, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. Because the internet is absolutely full of this stuff.